practice that we encourage you to do your due diligence, because this is not Patrick and me telling you this. It's not our corporate office telling you. These are the industry's experts that are out there. They go on to say that the MBA MBA health groups, profit margins in the private sector are dwindling because of reduced carrier allowances, increased red tape, and more regulations. Like we need. I mean, we see that on the news all the time. Thus, it goes on to say an efficient billing process is necessary for survival.
Yeah.
For survival.
That goes right along with our book that I mentioned earlier, folks, the New Thriving Medical Practice, because we're helping doctors to thrive and survive.
Right.
It's a great educational tool.
You know, Patrick, before we well, let's finish this article, because there's a question that's come in I want to make sure that we address here. But you know, going through this, it says the you know, that whole outsourced billing, outsourcing the process according to MBA means a well-trained specialist will take on heavy lifting while the rest of the practice gets on with the daily grind. Patrick, why don't you just briefly, because it says here it's well-trained specialist. Why don't you explain to everybody that MIRMA organization and how we've been able to team up with them, and now we're, through our training process, we're actually doing that part of well-trained specialists. As a matter of fact, people, when they come through our training, they're actually certified as a medical revenue manager.
Yeah, in 1 week's time, Eric, we have figured out over the last 23 years how to certify someone in a reduced amount of time, because we also have our online training. So during the week that people are actually here in the live workshop, of course, 8 to 5 every day, sometimes later than that, they're going to get 35, 40 hours of training. Well, on our licensee private website that they'll have access to, they've got access to 3 times that. So we've got over 100 hours of training for people that really, really makes them far smarter than any office manager that they'll ever run into.
And Patrick, since you're talking about the training, just because we've got a training class just coming up in about 2.5 weeks, why don't you discuss the difference between remote training and that live training, the importance of this live training, because I think that's really how we're able to help our licensees become that well-trained specialist out there.
Well, as you can see from some of the pictures here in this slide, it is a workshop. We are actually working together to solve various problems that we run into out there with doctors. They'll say, I've got this problem, I've got this problem. We're going to show you how you have the solutions to all of those. So, and you'll hear questions asked by people that you would never think of that question yourself, and you go, man, I'm glad that person asked that question. So it's just a different experience than having something that you could just learn through webinars or something that's online. You're focused for the week. You're there with other people who are at the same place you are, starting out in their new business, and you get to hear all of the experience from all the backgrounds in that class, including our instructor who's been in business now with us for 8 years now as a licensee.
Yeah, and she's grown that business very, very large. So, folks, we want to make sure that you understand again that these articles that we're addressing here and showcasing for you, again, is really the news. That's the new breaking news, really, folks, because no matter what's happening in Washington, D.C., no matter whether we hear about a single income payer or not, there is just no way that, you know, industries like Aetna and United Healthcare or you know, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Patrick, I can't even imagine my wildest dream those companies going away and then us going to a single payer like we see in Canada. I just don't see that ever happening.
Yeah, no, that's what some in government would like to see. I'm sure some people on the webinar today think that'd be great to have a single payer. For our business, though, it really doesn't matter because, as you know, Eric, we researched there in Canada, who's been a single payer for many, many decades now. We researched and found out that there was many medical billing companies in Canada as there are here in the States.
Yeah, yeah, there really is.
Even though they call it single payer, there's not just one entity. It's kind of like we have Medicare and we have Medicaid, and you know they've got a dozen other entities that they have to bill for. So they'll outsource it there in Canada even. Yeah. So this business. Yeah, this business will be here for a long time. Okay, Eric. Wow, we got to move. Okay.
One question before we head off there. Dan Jackson's got a great question because we mentioned something here. He goes, I know we're not selling the software, but how often is the system upgraded?
You know, that's a great question, and I wish I could tell you the answer because I don't log into the system daily, but Eric, it could be every day.
Right.
Because a cloud-based system is all upgraded on the servers in the cloud, right? And so the organizers, the programmers could be changing things tonight that we don't know about. When we log in tomorrow, they'll be there. It's that instant. So there's no downloading and running an installation program and figuring out which files to keep and which not to keep. That's all done automatically, Dan, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric, as a medical revenue manager, let's talk about things that they will not have to do. Because I think a lot of people worry about these codes, don't they?
Yes, they do. The great thing about it is we're going to teach you how to become a medical revenue manager. Write that down. We're going to teach you how to become a medical revenue manager. Matter of fact, again, we've already said you're going to become a certified medical revenue manager, and those are those little letters you can put after your name on your business card, CRMR. So you can really get that down. But you're not going to be a coder. A coder is someone that actually takes the notes from the doctor and actually codes them, and they do have to go to school. I mean, that whole process can go up to 4 years. So again, a coder is not a revenue manager either. So there are so many different integral parts of this, but think about it this way, folks. You are going to be on the money side of everything. You're going to make sure how the doctor gets paid. You're not there to make sure how the doctor codes their visits. That's the doctor's responsibility. Even if they've got a coder in their office, listen, if they're going to come after anybody, even if a doctor has a coder in their office, they're coming to the doctor if they've given out wrong code. So it doesn't stop with just the medical coder. So it truly is the doctor's responsibility to provide the medical codes to the billing company. Patrick, I know when we go see the doctor, my doctor, I've never been to a doctor where I haven't ever seen them write down codes. They give us 2 codes, a diagnosis code, that's what's wrong with us, and then a procedure code, and that's what they've done for us. But the great thing about it is, once they're using our system, the system, EMRX, as you can see here, actually codes for the doctor, Patrick.
Yeah, it's incredible. The doctors are blown away by this because now instead of having to keep up with all these changes in the codes that come down the pike, we take care of that for them. We have certified medical coders that are making sure that those codes are up to date and changed as needed.
Now, there are some times that you're going to run in line with a doctor who says, you know what, I really do want someone to code for me. And Patrick, if you could put up that slide there that we have 2 services that you can utilize already. We have 2 services, one called CodeWrite, which is actually that does the coding. We've got how many certified professional coders do we have in CodeWrite, Patrick?
About 150.
About 150. So we have 150 coders, medical coders that have gone to school. That's what they go to school for. That's what they do. They're coders. Now the other part of it is it's AuditGuard. Now that's a great source because AuditGuard can actually audit the doctor's notes to make sure that they've been coding properly before they get audited by Medicaid or Medicare or any of the other commercial industries can also come back. Sometimes I've heard, Patrick, some people have been under 6 or 7 or 8 audits at a time.
Yes. And that can be very expensive for a doctor. So, folks, bottom line is you don't have to know about the codes because, number one, they're built into our system and updated daily as often as necessary. And number 2, if you do need some more advanced help, we have certified coders that are ready to help you. So
that's it. I know this.
What else?
Yeah, this next slide that you're going to put up here, a lot of people think, oh my goodness, am I going to have to call that little old lady because she hasn't paid her doctor's bill?
Right. Where's that $25 you owe Dr. Smith?
Right. Folks, you're not a collection agency. think of it this way. You're on the front end of getting the doctors paid, not the back end. But again, if there are times whenever collections need to happen, we do know that happens. I don't know if anybody's ever gotten a doctor or a hospital, if they ever sent you to a collection agency. It's at that point you said, look, I'm never going to deal with that doctor again, or I'm never going to deal with that hospital again. Folks, we remove that from the doctor's part, because the doctors know that they can lose patients, and in their minds, if they lose a patient, they just lost a client, and they don't want to do that. So we have two sources. One's called Quick Collect. The other one's called Choice Pay. Again, these are kind ways in order to help the doctor make sure collections actually happen. Quick Collect does that. Choice Pay does that as well. Both of them are web-based, by the way, as well.
Yep. Again, two of the ancillary programs that you can offer to doctors as an ABS licensee. And of course, you make money on all of these things. Yeah. So, and the other bottom line is that they just they're not involved in the money, handling the doctor's money at all. You never have your hands on the doctor's money.
Absolutely. Never have to touch the doctor's money. And again, Patrick, that is exactly how a lot of the older medical billing companies have gotten into trouble, to where they've actually handled the doctor's money, and in that nasty word embezzlement happens. That's eliminated from today's industry, because the doctors are getting paid directly, electronically, from the insurance companies, and that includes Medicare, Medicaid, all the insurance companies. Goes electronically. Those digitized dollar bills goes into the doctor's bank account. The doctor gets paid. Now, this brings up a question, Patrick. If the insurance companies are paying the doctors, then how do I, as a medical billing company, actually get paid?
Very simply, our system is going to keep up with and show you reports telling you exactly how much money you billed and collected the previous 30-day period. So in our system, you'll simply put in that date range that you want to see, and it'll tell you exactly how much money was put back into the doctor's bank account by the insurance companies and by Medicare. From that number, you'll be computing a percentage that you get for processing the claims for the doctor. And Eric, that can run 5 to 8%.
Yes, 5 to 8. It's based upon. There's several factors there. We don't have time to get in all those factors, but make sure that you talk about those factors with your business coach that you're working with, because they're going to fluctuate a little bit between 5 and 8%, but we'll certainly kind of go through that with you. Patrick, before we go on to the next one right here, OK is asking a question. If a paid claim that is not correctly coded, will the insurance company or Medicare take back the payment made? And yes, they will. If it's not done properly, they can do that. Now, let me say this in light of that, okay, is that our system, the EMRX system, prevents that from happening, because it is automatically coding correctly the first time, and it's doing all of its own audits inside there. That's why we want to be able to stress to the doctors that this is actually being properly done, so you don't have that payback part of Medicare.
Yes. Okay.
Good. Okay.
I was just looking at some notes here from our producer behind the scenes. Can you drag the window larger so it increases? Maybe that was a few minutes ago. Oh, okay, so that is a good question. And, the point is that Medicare and Medicaid, being government agencies, can do anything they want to do. And the doctors fear them because they can take money away from them for not fulfilling certain things and going with the flow, so to speak. So they're very cautious of that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's answer this before we go to this next one. Sanjog, you're asking the question, that 5 to 8%, is that the amount billed, or does it include the copay of the customer? The answer is yes on both, because remember, you are a medical revenue manager. So that means all money that's coming in, all that revenue,
right? All cash coming in. Yeah, that's your fault. And
Yeah.
that's a good thing because the doctor will love you after just 2 or 3 billing cycles. You'll see the doctors are just overwhelmed at what you can do that they and their staff could not figure out how to do. Well, just think about it. They've got so many other things that they're doing every day. They couldn't possibly keep up with all this like we can keep our licensees up with all of it.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. All right.
Okay.
There's some other news that you brought up, Patrick, is this one. And even though this is dated back October 2016, the article actually says medical billing outsource market could reach 16.9 billion by 2024.
That's a pretty big pie. I'd say all you need is a little sliver of that pie. What, 6.3 billion in 2015, and by the year 2024, what does it say? A value of 16.9 billion, folks. That's phenomenal growth for any industry. Eric, I don't even know that the airline industry or food or entertainment is growing that fast.
No, that really is incredible, and I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier. I mean, obviously, people are living longer. I'm very fortunate to be again taking some time off, but I'm here with my mom and dad. They're both in their mid-70s, and they're climbing rocks with me and everything else. It's amazing of what our healthcare has actually done for us to help be better, feel better, and people, like you said, are living longer. So I mean, there's a lot to be said about the increasing market of baby boomers that are going to the doctor. Obviously, they're going, and so yeah, I mean, there's just no stopping this freight train. It seems like.
Hey, I'm going to just quote real fast, Eric, from a couple of other quotes here we got from prnewswire.com. 100% of the 224 participating new physicians seek alternatives to office, financial, and staff management as they launch their new practices. Now, Eric, let that sink in. Out of 224 new physicians, 100% of them are saying that they're seeking alternatives to doing it themselves. That's what this means. And it goes on to say right there, outsourcing their billing right out of the gate, right as they first open their practice, is giving the new generation of physicians and practitioners the much needed relief from the day-to-day stress of launching a new practice without a trial by fire in hiring, training, and managing employees. Wow. Again, that should be something that we're sending out there as if it's something we wrote, because it sounds very smart, and we're smart, so that would be good.
Yeah, no doubt. One thing, Patrick, and I know a lot of people's minds, they think, well, aren't doctors getting bought out by hospitals? Folks, the only reason that doctors are getting bought out by hospitals is because of what we just read just a moment ago. It's this whole trial and by fire. They keep hiring folks, and they never get it together. But like, again, this PR News is saying 77% of physicians believe they need to find more direct patient care time currently taken up by business office related issues. Many doctors are not struggling on the business side of running a practice. Outsourcing the billing process eliminates the managerial hassles and frees doctors to concentrate on patients. That's what they went to school for.
That's right. And 95% of the practices with less than 5 physicians, that's basically our target market, right, for our licensees, at least beginning, self-identify as not tech savvy, to say the least, right? Some of them don't even have computers. Folks, you're going to be so shocked. You'll run into doctors out there that are still filling out paper forms. Yeah, in the year 2017.
Yeah. All right. So, oh wow. Okay. This is interesting. There no sales in the industry, only education. I love that.
Yeah. People ask us all the time, well, what do I have to sell? What do I have to do to sell the doctor? Well, if you do anything to sell the doctor, you probably lose that account. But we can show you how to educate that doctor. We've got all kinds of ways that you can educate them. Just like we educate you on these webinars. Every week we're doing these webinars just to educate you so you know a little bit more about this business so you can decide, if it's for you. Hope it is.
Absolutely.
Hope it is. It's not for everybody. We know that. Hey, Eric, any other questions there that are coming in we need to address?
Yeah, Dan's asking a question here. Do you ever change billing systems? If so, do we get new training and the like? Great question, Dan.
Yeah.
Especially speaking, towards Patrick and me, because we both do research and development. But we're always looking.
Dan, even though what we have now is really, we're not just saying this, we have awards to show that our software system, the cloud-based system that you'll be using, iClaim and EMRX, they have won all sorts of awards, and they are the leading edge technology. But here's the big but. We've actually had about 5 different platforms in our company history, meaning we have switched software. So here's why that's important, folks. If you went with a company, for example, that wrote their own software and they own it, well, they're not going to be switching anytime fast, right? Because they put all the time and effort into creating their software. All they can do is patch it and hope that they can make it better. With us, as a company that's basically your training and support company, we're not the software company, we can be completely transparent about what systems are out there. And if we ran across another one that's better than the one we're using tomorrow, we would make partnerships with that company, and you'd have access to that instantaneously.
Yeah, and you get all the new training. There's no additional fees for that. For anything we add to, put in, folks, we just don't charge you anything extra. So because, Patrick, you want to say why? Because again, we're not a franchise, so we're getting franchise fees from people. We only become successful whenever our licensees are successful.
Yeah, because we do make money on the back end from our technology partners that are providing the power behind all of our technology. So those are contracts that we have with our providers that provide us a back end income in addition to the licensing fee. We do make money on the license fees, obviously, but we also make money on the back end of the business as well. So, like Eric said, the more success you have, the more success we have as a company.
There you go. All right, so what we want to do for maybe the little bit of time we have left here is just kind of go through what we say is the evolution of medical billing. And Patrick, you and Linda started back whenever they had the things called typewriters.
Yeah, not quite that old. It wasn't an electric typewriter. I think it was an IBM Selectric. But the point is, we were filling out the form you see there on the right, the one printed in red. That's a form that the government came up with years ago that said, if you can fill out this form, we'll pay you as Medicare. And so the insurance companies all adopted that form. It's called the 1500 form. But she had to type that out, Eric, and it was in duplicate or triplicate. And if you make a mistake when you type on a typewriter, you got to peel all the pieces back with your liquid paper and blot out the mistakes. It was a hassle. Anyway, the point is that we finally, of course, figured out that there's a better way to do that. So by getting the information from the form you see there on the left called a super bill, every doctor's office has something similar to that. You take that information, you put that into our electronic software system that basically fills out that form for you, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and
so
then
eventually we learned to do that electronically eventually.
Yeah, and then you kind of wrote some software too that kind of took it from from the typewriter over to the computer, and Linda was starting to do this electronically through here, and then would just print it out. She was able to make corrections on the computer and then just print it out correctly the first time.
Right. So it was a lot less work. Once we got the software written and designed to print out that form, we got the kind that had the little holes on each side. You've seen those pin-fed papers that continuous form prints one after another. So at the end of the day, we just print all of them that she had done and put those in envelopes and, of course, mailed them to the doctor's offices.
Well, you said the key word there. You used to have to mail them.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big deal because the insurance companies, I'm convinced they had somebody in the basement shredding every fifth claim that came in, because when we'd call about one that we hadn't heard about, they'd go, oh, sorry, we don't have any record of that. Well, there's no way to prove it because you just mailed it by regular mail.
Right.
So you'd have to resubmit it. Yeah, it was a big hassle. Then we found out about true electronic filing with no paper involved in it whatsoever. The only drawback to that, of course, was that entity you see right there in the middle. That building, the blue building, is called a clearinghouse. Eric, why don't you tell them a little bit about what a clearinghouse does for medical billing companies?
Yeah, when medical billing ended up in the 21st century here, basically, and things started going through electronically, you just didn't submit, and you still can't just submit. You can't just put in a computer and then it go directly to the insurance company. There has to be something in between that kind of, if you think about it, directs the traffic. So it's sort of thinking of it like a air traffic control, with the airplanes. You take that runway, and those that are coming in, you come in this way. So it's very similar to what a clearinghouse does. But in there, they also check that claim to see if there may be any errors in it. And if there's an error at the clearinghouse, that claim will go all the way back into the system. Well, what happens there, at least what we found out, that can bottleneck a lot of claims that are called denied claims or rejected claims. On top of you're trying to put more claims in there, so the claims that you may have put in there 2 or 3 days ago now are starting to come back rejected just from the clearinghouse, and then you got to have those reworked on top of everything else that you're doing, because you're trying to get everything else now back out in a batch and get it all out there. And you can have this almost this ping pong ball war between computer software and the clearinghouse, and those claims never getting over there to the insurance company. So Patrick, that's where, after you and I doing some due diligence and doing our research and development, we have come to find out that there's better ways of doing this, and instead of having to pick up super bills, whether it's in person or getting them faxed over, or local delivery services, we have found a completely better way of doing that, and that's where we are now, not only the billing system, but also now the clearinghouse. And folks, this is where our licensees are making the biggest impact with doctors. And this is where, as you'll see on this next slide, Patrick's going to put up there, this is where ABS is truly blowing through the doors here, because we are literally changing the industry in how medical billing actually happens. You can see from this slide here is that clearinghouse that used to sit outside of the system is now inside of our system. So we're not even dealing with a third-party clearinghouse now. So if you can imagine what's happening now, when our licensees can take a claim and now send it directly to the insurance company, obviously we have less claims that are rejected, and the doctors are getting paid not in 30 to 45 days. Now they're getting paid within 7 to 10 days. Patrick, with our help here at ABS with brand new licensees, we are closing out of every 4 doctors that we're doing demonstrations for, we're closing 3 of those. That's
wow,
great numbers there.
Yeah, that's incredible. So folks, let that sink in. We don't go into detail in every webinar, but we do live demos of the system. If you haven't seen our system, get back with the person who sent you the email to invite you to this webinar, and they'll arrange for you to have a one-on-one live demo of our system, and you can ask all the questions you want during that demo. Take as much time as you need. Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, Eric, kind of sum up here for us what this slide's kind of showing what we have that's different from what everybody else has.
Sure. I'm going to kind of go back to what Dan was saying. He asked, did we ever change software or change directions or change it? Yes. When we have found this scenario, it's the first time that any of us have ever seen anything like this, where the practice management, which is iClaim, which is for our licensees, and the electronic medical records, and the clearinghouse, you see that at the bottom left-hand corner, and the patient portal is all one system now. There's no trying to make sure your practice management billing system is actually going to work with some type of EMR system or electronic medical record system there. And then hopefully we can get those connected through a third-party clearinghouse. So in essence, folks, this is what you're getting. You're getting the only software out there in the United States that is a practice management and billing system, EMR system, clearinghouse, and patient portal, all within one. There's no other platform in the U.S. that does that. This is making the biggest difference out there for our licensees.
Yeah, so the iClaim portion of our system that you're looking at here, which is what you'll be in, 99% of the time doing the billing for the doctor, it allows you to do everything necessary to enter a claim and submit it for that insurance company. If the doctor has implemented electronic medical records through our EMRX system, they will have access to our system as well, even in their patient encounters. Right there in the patient's office, they can actually hold their iPad there and look them right in the eye, tap a few buttons, and boom, that information is put right into the system, the iClaim system, that allows you to do the billing. The clearinghouse, very important that you realize we've done all the work behind the scenes to make sure that this clearinghouse will clear your claims, because it all comes back to us, right? We have a nationwide average of what, Eric, now less than 2%.
Yes.
Of rejections on our claims. Most clearinghouses are rejecting 20 to 30% right now. So it's a great thing to have built into the system. And then, of course, we just barely touched on the patient portal, but wow, if we could show you this, Eric, we need to do a webinar just on the patient portal. It's got such amazing information in here.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. The most complete patient portal I've ever seen.
And matter of fact, I just got another article from an email that we subscribe to, talking about, and this is something we rarely ever talk about, that is telemedicine. Just like you can see Patrick and me right now on side by side in a video. Imagine that Patrick's the doctor and I'm the patient. We're moving into really the world of telemedicine, or what we call e-visits, and it's because our patient portal and our electronic medical record systems are actually integrated that we can actually have a secured patient-doctor visit online like we're seeing right now, where you as the patient, you're logging in through the patient portal, the doctor's on the EMR side pulling all that together, and as soon as the visit's over, that whole visit now goes directly to you as the biller so that you can bill it. And you talk about a seamless system here. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. That's why it's won so many awards. Okay, Eric, moving right along, I wanted to kind of talk about what it takes to just actually walk them through a medical claim here real quickly. So I'm going to move through these slides really quickly. You just kind of give us a feel for what we're looking at there, since you created the slides. Hey, by the way, I'm looking here at a question back from Oki that says, does the incorrect coding affect the billing company? I don't think we addressed that, Eric, did we?
No, and that kind of goes back to the question I think he was asking earlier about, if there's incorrect codes and there's money that has to go back to the doctor, or the doctor has to pay that back to the insurance company or to Medicare, does that affect the biller? And obviously it would, because the doctor's already paid you on that, so there may be some things there, but that rarely happens with us here, especially because of the scenario that we're actually working with.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It could happen, but again, that's some of those things that will help you with as you're working with your doctor, especially whenever you're getting everything set up with the doctor.
Yeah. Sergio says, don't you, as the biller, have to know the correct code that goes on that form?
Yeah.
Sergio, those codes are, again, suggested by our system to the doctor, so we know that they're accurate no matter which one he picks.
Right. Yeah, and Sergio, one of the things that you're going to learn here in our training class, you really are going to learn the difference between what's a diagnosis code and a procedure code, and that's really all you need to know, because again, the diagnosis code, you'll always see that's what's wrong with the patient, and then the procedure code is what the doctor did, and the doctor's given that to you, and even if you try to put a procedure code where the diagnosis code is supposed to go, our systems will tell you that's invalid, and to switch those around. So it's pretty dummified, so to say. It helps us not to put wrong codes where they don't belong.
Right. All right. So I think we talked a moment ago about doctors and how they get that information. They can get it via fax or a delivery company or whatever. We also have a system that allows them to just scan that in directly into a cloud-based document management system, right, Eric?
Right, you got it.
But that's basically it. You're taking the information from this form. They call it a super bill or a day sheet at a doctor's office, and yeah, you're just putting the numbers that they've circled, the codes and so forth, in that patient record and submitting the claim.
Yeah, and you're going to have hands-on this information at our training class. So what you're seeing now, we're just kind of stepping you through to what it might look like of actually processing a claim. So you would go to our iClaim platform. You'd go right there where it says billing and enter charges, and you click on professional claim charges, which brings you to this part of it. If you heard Patrick mention earlier that red form there, that was the CMS 1500 form. Well, this is what it looks like electronically. And as you go through this, you'll see this next screen here, where down there at the very bottom you see that where it says number 1, and it says R05. Well, going back to what Sergio's question was earlier, don't you know, as a biller, have to know these things? Well, all we got was the R05, but when we put that in there, you can see it gives us a definition of a cough. You know that's the diagnosis. That's it, and that's how easy it is. Then we get to put in the procedure code. Now, again, the procedure code is what the doctor has done for us. They saw us for 10 or 15 minutes. That's what that first line is. That second line there is like an injection, like we got a shot or something. Again, these codes are given to you by the doctor. So you will never be without codes. You don't have to know the codes because, again, it's the doctor's responsibility because it is they that is administering this information to the patient and getting this information to you. Once you've done that, you get to the bottom part of this and you click Create Claim. Once you've done that, you have filed a claim. And Patrick just mentioned to you, if you would like to see a demonstration of this in real time, get back with the person that invited you to the webinar today, and we'll actually show you how to do this, and we'll make it very, very simple. Matter of fact, Patrick, in about 5 more minutes, with a couple that is actually on here on the webinar with us this afternoon, as soon as this webinar is over, I'm actually doing a demonstration of the software for those folks this afternoon.
Oh, cool. Well, it doesn't get any more live for them than this.
No, it doesn't.
Well, Eric, knowing that, you just say goodbye anytime you need to get out.
Well, let's handle that last question there. I'll let you kind of wrap up here. But here Sanjong is asking a question about the Epic system. Now, Epic is, for those that don't know this, it's just another billing software out there. And Sanjong, that particular system, it really is one of the biggest EHRs out there, but it's more for the hospitals and not for the doctor's offices. So you're asking that they're trying to get in that market, but I'll have to say this. We are making great strides in helping doctors get out of them using Athena Health or Curio or any of these major ones that are out there, simply because our system has its own clearinghouse. So really there becomes no competition. And even with the Epic system, they do not have their own clearinghouse. You would still have to use a third-party clearinghouse. So we can certainly stay up with the competition out there very, very well.
Easily, yeah. Let's see, Peter's asking about during the sales cycle, if we were to arrange a group of practices to attend a seminar, can demonstrations be arranged for those group settings? Absolutely, yeah. We love those kind, yep.
Yep.
Eric, you've done several of those, haven't you, for groups of doctors that get together in a conference room or something? Yeah.
I have. Yeah, and they're great because it just really does blow the doctor's socks off because, again, they're so accustomed of having to use a third-party outsource clearinghouse, and when you really get them to understand the full picture of it, it just blows them all away.